the competition at running back?
It's very competitive. Yeah, we've had a lot of guys, get in there at different times, and they've done a really good job.
At what point do you want to, and maybe you have already decided who gets the first handoff, and at what point, if you haven't, what point do you want to do that, get that accomplished?
Yeah, I think we haven't decided that yet. I think we'd like to have a pretty good idea of it probably at the end of the week or beginning of next week. I think at the same time they're very interchangeable in that sense that I don't know if it really comes down to who gets the first handoff, but we want to find out probably the best flow of the game, who plays how much and when.
How different do they all feel from one another, and just in terms of their skill set and body types are obviously different too?
Yeah, I think the one thing that we're blessed with is I think they're all pretty well rounded. So I don't know if there's, obviously there's some things that, like any position, I think there's some things that highlight maybe one guy runs a specific route better than the other guy. But I do feel like within the framework of the offense, their skill sets are all have the ability to be highlighted. And I think there's probably more similarities than differences in the guys.
What are your thoughts on Brees Hall?
Very impressed by him. Brees has done a really good job picking up the offense. Obviously, coming in early has really helped him. But been really pleased with the way that he's approached the game. Been very pleased with his ability to continue to progress in pass protection. And just really impressive young man. I think when you're around Brees, when you guys get the opportunity to do that, I think you'll feel the same way. Just a really good young man that's serious about the craft and serious about his team.
Coach Campbell didn't seem like he loved the idea of, at least down the road, being by committee. He'd like to find at least one or two guys. Do you feel like that would take a few games even though?
Yeah, I don't know. And I certainly understand Coach Campbell's thought process there. I think obviously, when you feel like you get a little better flow, when you have maybe a more stable position, when you have a guy who's going to be where, when. But I think we'll go on and figure out how much and as we go forward. And obviously, it's football. There's a lot of things that can happen. So that's still a work in progress, finding out how those things fit into what packages and obviously first, second, third down. Those things obviously change a lot of the game.
Has Trevor Downing put himself in a spot where he could start right away now? Yeah,
we've been real pleased with Trevor. I think the strides that he's made, even from the spring until fall camp and throughout fall camp, has been really good. He's a tough, physical kid. I mean, he's exactly what we thought he would be, and he's done just a tremendous job. So we've been really happy with him and how hard he's worked to put himself and really the things that he had to work at in his game. I think he really took the time this summer and really approached those things, and is becoming certainly a way more well-rounded offensive lineman.
Do you anticipate that first game he's out there starting?
Yeah, I think we still got to go through here, and the next week is still a really big week for us in determining, what that looks like, and so it'd be a little early to say that.
What have you liked or maybe not liked, I guess both of those things, about his first few scrimmages?
Well, I think the one thing we've done a pretty good job of is taking care of the football. Last scrimmage I thought we did a few things from a pre-snap penalty standpoint that certainly wasn't characteristic of what we want and what our team wants. But I thought for the most part we had the ability to run the football pretty well and we threw the football well and some controlled passing and so it was good. I think we got out of there pretty good and we felt like both scrimmages we left like, hey, we've taken the next step and we've gotten what we wanted out of those scrimmages. Had a chance to see some younger guys, but also work some situational football that I think is sometimes hard to simulate even in practice. So it was good.
Has Skates been pretty impressive during those scrimmages too?
Yeah, Joe's done good. I think that Joe's been consistent throughout camp. Joe's worked very hard. He's another guy that I think is really addressing the things that he needed to address in the offseason and certainly done a really good job in being more consistent day in and day out.
Is it a possibility to, even through the UNI game, to use all 5 guys at running back or to let the competition go past the opening week, or do you say, no, I want my 3 by opening night?
That's still, I think we're still kind of figuring that out as it goes forward. And for us, I think our mission right now is to find a way to win that game. And, whoever we got to put in, however we got to use them, that's where our mission and goal is. And, so we'll feel like we have a better idea as we getting to, you don't know what's going to happen. And there'll be a lot of people here, and it'll be the first time with action for a lot of those guys. So we're going to have to kind of feel it out as it goes.
How does your play calling change, if any, this year going forward without those guys?
Yeah, I think the one thing that Coach Campbell's really always based offense around, going back to when we were college players with our head coach, was always players, formations, and plays. And what formations do we get in that give us the best opportunity to move the football and put the guys that we believe can make plays in those positions. So for us, it's about finding different ways to move people around. And Dave and Hakeem were both tremendous football players for us, and it's really hard to replace those guys. I mean, that's a fact. Any way you cut it, it's really hard. They made a lot of plays here over their time, and I think as you went even last year, man, some of the plays that those guys made is incredible. So that certainly that's a challenge. But I think we have to find unique ways and see, continue to put pressure on guys to see if they can emerge into being who those guys were. And I think that's what makes football great, is it's the evolution of when it's your opportunity, what do you do with it? And we have to continue to put those guys in pressure situations in practice. And obviously we have a really good defense, and putting them against those guys and finding ways that we can highlight what each guy's good at individually.
When you're coaching running backs, what's the biggest thing or the most important thing for them to have? Is it vision? Is it ball security? What's kind of if there was going to be one skill or trait that they have, what's the main thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and really it's at all positions, is their agility. Obviously ball security is job security, and that's the most important thing as far as operating an offense. But as far as what makes a guy really good player, it's the guy that has the agility, which agility usually leads to a guy that has really good vision. David Montgomery would be a really good example of that. Extremely agile, can make all the cuts. If you have great vision but you don't have the ability to make those cuts and get in and out of breaks, it really doesn't matter too much. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand, but agility would be for me the thing that you look for the most.
When it comes to the running backs and pretty much every position, Coach Campbell said, if you can't play or you're kind of log jammed behind a bunch of competition, we could look for other homes. That's kind of what it went into with Easton Need. Any of those running backs that maybe couldn't play right away that could find homes someplace else?
No, I think right now, we're really happy with where the running back room is. Those guys are competing daily, and I think, even young guys, you see them just progressing from a day-to-day basis. So yeah, right now we're pretty good at keeping those guys there, and it's been fun to watch them grow. I mean, it really has been, and it's a really good room of guys. I mean, as far as their preparation for practice, you go to a meeting room, they're a really close-knit group, but also they're very serious on what we're doing, how we're doing it. They coach each other up great. It's really just a remarkable group. Sheldon Crony obviously has played a lot of football here. He's done a tremendous job of helping some of the younger guys, talking about situations and scenarios and things to think about as they progress forward. So we're real happy with that group of guys.
Brock said he felt like you guys have been spreading the ball around more. Is that a conscious effort in camp, or is it just something you feel like you're doing to figure out who your guys are?
I think probably most of it is that I think Brock's doing a really good job of spreading the football around. Obviously our defense forces us to do a lot of really difficult things, and I think that for us it is. I think our quarterbacks are doing a good job of going through the progressions and getting the ball around. But it's a little bit of all those things. Obviously we want to keep putting different guys in positions, but also we're young at the wide receiver group, so finding out what guys can do what, and again finding what ways we can highlight those guys is a part of it by design. But also I think that the quarterbacks have done a really good job of taking the reads and going through the progressions and trusting the play, which has probably led to a little bit of that. So I think Brock probably gave himself a compliment without even knowing it.
When you came back, a number of guys have mentioned the defense pushes the offense so much, and we saw what they did leading the Big 12 in a bunch of categories last year. Is it not night and day, because Haycock had it going well before he got here, or when you were still here, but has it been a big change and look at how much those guys push you?
Well, Coach Haycock is a tremendous coach, and not only just a football coach. I think he's a guy that a lot of us on our staff lean to for advice on a lot of different things, you know, and I think he's, even going back to Toledo, he's kind of been the rock for a lot of us, especially some of us younger coaches as we go through. And also from an X and O's wise, I think he's always, you know, he'll come in and give you little tidbits on, you know, hey, that hurt because this, and this guy, man, he was really impressive doing that. And for me as a young guy, I really feel like he's been a guy that has been a great mentor, I think, to probably all of our staff. But yeah, I mean, you look back to 2 years ago, and at this time of year, the defense is tremendously different. There's people everywhere, I feel like sometimes, you know, and that's a good thing. But it challenges us. I mean, I think it challenges us as coaches to figure out what are the ways that we can maybe exploit those things in practice. And it also challenges us to, like, hey, is what we're doing the right thing? And because, you know, I think that's what's great about the way that Coach Campbell structures practice is, you know, we always are in competition. Our players are in competition on a day-to-day basis, but I think, you know, what's unique about this coaching staff is we're in competition from a day-to-day basis as far as, you know, situational football. But at the same time, I think we try to use that to, you know, to help kind of bond us a little bit and work together. And he's just been tremendous for our team, obviously for our defense, but I think also for us younger coaches. And don't tell him I'm saying he's old. He's not old, but I think he's just been a great guy. And all the guys on defense, you know, they all have been in that and kind of have developed this thing together, and they're all really knowledgeable guys that have had the ability to help us. And yeah, it's been really good.
You mentioned the young receiving group. How much of a stabilizing factor is Deshaunte Jones? How much of a stabilizing factor is Deshaunte Jones? What kind of leader has he turned himself into?
Yeah, I'm really proud of Deshaunte. I think, you know, Deshaunte obviously has played a lot of football here, and he's a guy that just kind of continues to answer the bell. He's been really good, I think, of a way, if you watch Deshaunte from when he was a freshman here and was forced into playing and played really well for us, I think you see the way that he's changed his preparation habits, the way he takes care of his body. I mean, he looks so different from the day that I met him. And yeah, he's steady Eddie, man. He's where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there, and I think he's really a good standard for some of those young guys to look up to and say, hey, man, if I really work hard in this football program and I continue to buy into what's going on, the good things can happen to me. So he's been great.
How's the line looked through camp?
Yeah, I think they've looked good. You know, Coach Myers is doing a phenomenal job with those guys. I think what's probably the most impressive thing to me there is that their player ownership has changed probably over the past few years. You know, I think that those guys have really policed themselves and have challenged each other to work really hard. And that's a hard position to play. And, you know, when offensive lines are really good, I think those guys have a tremendous amount of pride in what they do. And you start to see those guys kind of flock together a little bit more. And I think we're finally at the point where those guys are a really tight-knit group, and I'm really proud of the way that those guys have worked together. I think you feel them bringing young guys along. So they've been really good. You know, great leadership there in that group, and really a lot of just tough guys. And it's been fun to watch them grow and continue to get better.